Hi, my name is Gerard Wells, and it's been a while since I made a YouTube video, but I am making one today because I'm sure you've all heard the news of this woman, Renee Good, who was killed by an ICE police officer. And I'm going to tell you my opinion on it by the end of the video, and I don't expect the video to be very long. You can skip if you want to. But until then, I just wanted to say this. When Charlie Kirk died, everyone on the right was talking about how wrong it is to mock Charlie Kirk's death. Okay. And I agree with that full-heartedly. I think Charlie Kirk was wrongly murdered. I actually did agree with him on most things. I'm not a Democrat. I am mostly Republican. But, and I was disgusted to see people mock Charlie Kirk's death at all. I thought that was extremely wrong to do. And now this woman who died, Renee Good, you see the right mocking her death just as much as the left was mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. And I don't get that. I'm not making excuses for the left mocking Charlie Kirk's death, but at least a lot of them don't believe in Jesus. At least a lot of them are atheists, which doesn't give you an excuse to be a terrible person. But at least they can say they don't believe in the things Jesus taught. And still be terrible, but at least they're not calling themselves a good Christian while mocking a woman, the death of a woman they don't even know. The death, yeah. And then that's what the right is doing right now. And I get how someone might see how she was in the wrong. I don't necessarily agree with that, and I'll tell you why at the end. But even if you think Renee Good was in the wrong and she did try to run over that police officer, the Lord Jesus tells us to forgive our enemies. The Lord Jesus doesn't want us to mock the death of someone even when they were in the wrong to begin with. If Renee Good tried to rob me with a gun, and I had a gun too, and I shot her, the Lord Jesus would not want me dancing at her grave, bragging about the death I just caused. And for some reason, a lot of Christians are acting like it's perfectly fine to mock someone's death just because they see her as being in the wrong in this case. And it's not like this is the worst woman ever. You know, she tried to hit a police officer in their minds. That's with their car. That's bad, even if you see it from their perspective. Even if their perspective is right, that's bad. But is it really enough to warrant the mocking of someone's death like that? I wouldn't even mock a dictator's death. I can acknowledge that I'm happy they're not in charge anymore. But the reason why I say I wouldn't mock their death, I wouldn't laugh, I wouldn't feel joy, is because at the end of the day, we're all supposed to be working for Christ. And we don't know who can convert. You know, Kim Jong-un could become a Christian tomorrow, renounce his power, and say, and give all his power to South Korea. It's very unlikely. But would I rather have him die tomorrow or become a good Christian and do what I just said? Well, become a good Christian and do what I just said. I'd still want him to go to jail for all his crimes. But I wouldn't laugh and be joyous when anyone dies. Just because I think it's wrong. And for a lot of conservatives to compare this woman, like, to compare this woman to the worst people in society, I don't think is fair, even if you think she was in the wrong. Even Jesus tells us to forgive our enemies. And you can't forgive a woman who didn't even try to hurt you, who tried to apparently hurt an ICE officer, who didn't harm you in any way. You can't even, if you can't find it in your heart to forgive her, how are you going to find it? How are you going to find forgiveness in your heart to forgive your enemies? I think the only reason why they're laughing is because the Democrats laughed at Charlie Kirk. The Democrats laughed at Charlie Kirk. These people laugh at the Democrats laughed at Charlie Kirk. The Republicans are now laughing at Renee Good, and I think it is the sign of a mentally ill society. Because you can acknowledge that you don't agree with all of Charlie Kirk's opinions and then say he didn't deserve to get shot. You can even acknowledge, you can say, well, I don't think that was a murder that I witnessed with Renee Good, but I still think the situation still saddens me. You know, you can say that even and not celebrate her death. But instead, we have a bunch of people celebrating the death of the people that oppose them. And I think our society is basically having I think we are becoming a demonically possessed country, where as long as the people don't agree with you, it's okay to mock their deaths. And we should kill anyone that disagrees with us. That is what our country is heading into. It really is, and it really scares me. And, you know, if you don't believe in demons or whatever, you can just replace it with mental illness, but I honestly think it's our country slowly becoming demonically possessed. We're so focused on politics. We so desperately want to own the people that do mock Charlie Kirk's death or do mock Renee Good's death. But this is why we need Jesus. We need to forgive our enemies. Even if you think she's in the wrong, you shouldn't be laughing at her funeral. You should say, well, this is a tragedy. Even if you think the guy was doing self-defense, I don't think you should laugh at a woman who died like that just because she was in the wrong. And it scares me when the first thing we do is just laugh at someone's death like that, when that's your first reaction to someone you don't even know, whether it's Charlie Kirk or her. If your first reaction is to just laugh when Jesus tells us to forgive those who prosecute us, then something is terribly wrong. Something is terribly wrong with this country, and it will not last very long. It will not last very long if we keep laughing at each other just because someone had an opinion you don't like and they die for it. Just because someone was driving her car away from the police officer and got killed for it. Just because you don't like their political ideology, you'll laugh. It's messed up. And I guess this is my opinion on her death. I don't think he should have been in front of the car in the first place. I think it was very clear that she was leaving the situation. I don't think she was gonna back her car up. I don't think she was gonna drive into the other ICE officers or anything. And if you believe in warrants, then why wouldn't that apply to a car? Why was she being arrested in the first place? They had no reason to arrest her in the first place. He got in front of the car. I think she even moved her wheel, turning the other way. And I do think it was a wrong murder. I do think she was wrongly murdered. And I can acknowledge that and still think immigration is a problem. Illegal immigration is a problem. I do. But even if I thought she was in the wrong, I would not celebrate her death. You know, I did say, oh, dictators, I wouldn't celebrate their death. Well, I can acknowledge maybe if I was living in North Korea or whatever and Kim Jong-un died, that part of me would be happy. But isn't she really far from that? Isn't she like really far from that? Like I said, if she straight up tried to rob me and I shot her, right? I would not think of that woman as Hitler, even then. And she wasn't a robber either. Okay. We should not celebrate when someone dies, even if you think they're in the wrong, even if they deserve to die. Because in some situations, some people do deserve to get killed in self-defense situations. You should try your best to forgive that person within the span of your life and try to teach others not to be like them. But you shouldn't celebrate their death because that's the loss of their soul. That is, we are supposed to forgive those who hurt us. And forgiveness is a hard thing. It really is. But the main reason I think the right is mocking her death is not because they think she was in the wrong. It is simply because they mock Charlie Kirk's death. The Democrats mocked Charlie Kirk's death. Now they get to mock this one. And this makes me think we are slowly becoming demonically possessed. Now, I know you're thinking, oh, but our heads aren't turning around in 360-degree angles. We're not climbing on ceilings. Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's probably the worst case of it. But when you are laughing at the death of someone just to own the libs because they laughed at your guy, or you are laughing at Charlie Kirk just because Republicans laughed at her, you gotta look inside yourself and try to find Christ. You really do. I know people that disagree with me on Renee Good who didn't laugh for a single second when she got shot. Didn't laugh for a single second. Still thought it was a tragedy. And that's fine. I'm not saying you have to agree with everyone. But we're not here. We're not put on this earth to mock the deaths of random people just because they don't agree with us. Even if you think they're in the wrong, which I don't think she was. Alright, that's the video. I hope it reaches the right places. I'm not looking to blow up or anything. I just had to put my 2 cents on the matter. I hope Christ is with you. I hope Jesus is in your heart. I hope Jesus is with Charlie Kirk right now in heaven. I hope Jesus is with Renee Good in heaven. I surely hope we can act like adults in this country and not like complete children. And I gotta mention one more thing. You'll mock the death of Renee Good, okay? Because she was in the wrong and she deserves to be memed on and laughed at because she tried to hit that police officer. Fine. But Trump is on the Epstein files. And I voted for him twice. I didn't know at the time. Okay, fuck. I don't mean to swear. Christ have mercy on me. I don't mean to swear. But Trump is on the Epstein files. And you're not mocking him for that. You won't even mock him for that, but you're mocking the death of a random woman, even if she was in the wrong. What's with the double-sidedness? That really makes me think you're mocking her death because somebody mocked the death of your guy. And that's why you need Jesus, folks. Makes your life better. Really does. When you forgive your enemies, I'm not saying you gotta fucking give your enemies $1,000. Fuck that. But when you forgive your enemies, your life becomes easier. You don't gotta pretend to enjoy watching someone get killed. Alright. You have a blessed day. Goodbye, everyone.